So what's going on, you guys? So this is a video that I've wanted to make for you guys for a little while now. It's an issue that really everyone all over the internet has been talking about for a long time, at least certainly the past couple of years. I haven't really talked too much about it. I certainly haven't gone into too much details or too much depth over it. But I decided today should finally be the day to do that. I know I haven't reviewed anything in 2024 yet. I'm planning on seeing The Beekeeper later this weekend, so I'll get a review up for you guys for that. Not long after I see it, but today I decided to talk about an issue that has really been apparent for a while now. I just haven't really talked about it until I did a little bit of research for myself to really understand how big this issue has become. So I'm ultimately, sorry for that, that's why I do jump cuts. I'm ultimately going to be talking about really what has been Disney's biggest issue and why it's been failing so hard. So it really dawned on me. I was looking back recently at some of my favorite movies in the last 3 years. I didn't go all the way back to 2020 because 2020 was COVID year, so I don't really count that, but 2021, 2022, and 2023, just to look at the standouts of the years. And I noticed something. In the last 3 years that I've been doing YouTube videos, that I've been reviewing movies and seeing movies, not a single Disney movie has made any of my top 10 best lists in the last 3 years. Not one. Now I know some of you might say, oh, what about Spider-Man No Way Home? Spider-Man No Way Home is an MCU movie, and MCU is a Disney franchise, but part of the deal of Spider-Man being in the MCU movies is that the standalone Spider-Man movies are Sony property. So technically, No Way Home is a Sony movie, not a Disney movie. The other argument you could make, and this one there's more of an argument to be made, is Avatar: The Way of Water, because that is, distributed by 20th Century Studios, which is owned by Disney. Okay, you could make the case for that because technically, yes, on paper, Avatar: The Way of Water is a Disney movie, but that is a movie that has been in development for, how long was that in development for? Like 14 years? I mean, it wasn't until it was pretty much nearing completion that Disney got the rights to it. I mean, in my eyes, you look at Avatar: The Way of Water, Disney's credit for that is being the kid in the group project at school that didn't do anything, but they got to put their name on the paper so they still get an A. That's how I see Disney is to Avatar: The Way of Water. I'm talking about just a pure Disney project that they made start to finish or had a heavy hand in making. As far as that goes, not a single Disney movie on my top 10 best lists. Not an MCU movie that isn't Spider-Man, not a Lucasfilm project, not an animation, just nothing. Live action adaptation, just nope. And on the other hand, I looked back at my worst of the year lists in the last 3 years, and 7 Disney movies total are on them. That means nearly a fourth of the worst movies I've seen in the last 3 years have been Disney movies. Nearly a quarter. That's a big chunk. Now I know, I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to say like my opinion is the right opinion or anything like that. I'm not. But at the same time, here's another way to look at it. I think as a population, as a consensus among movie lovers, everyone would agree with it. You know how I know? Let's look back at the last few years again. In the year 2019, 7 Disney movies, I think around 7 Disney movies, made over $1 billion. That's wild. 7 Disney movies in 1 year made over $1 billion. That's crazy. But since then, not a single one, except Avatar: The Way of Water, which I've already said I don't really count, has made over $1 billion. So clearly, you see it right now, Disney's going through a really tough time. And I'm going to use this video to explain really why Disney has essentially fallen apart, and ultimately what we can do as fans to hopefully get not just Disney back on the right track, but hopefully Hollywood in general. So getting to what went on with Disney, really, it's 3 issues to why it went wrong. Number one, Disney, I think at this point has just become way too powerful. I mean, you see it everywhere. Disney is, you almost feel like in ways is really trying to go for world domination here. I mean, they own the rights to so many different projects at this point. Well, not even projects, but companies. I mean, they own Marvel, they own Pixar, they own Fox, they own Lucasfilms. They own so many different media outlets. And the problem with that is when you gain possession or gain control over so many different things, it spreads you thin. You no longer can pour all your best assets into one piece of a company or anything like that. You gotta really spread yourself out. You gotta pour assets into this and pour assets into this. And eventually, because of that, because you have so much more on your plate, you know, it leads you having to take more good people out of that and put more smart people into that, and you're spreading yourself too thin. And I think because of that, you know, it's a very monetary kind of mindset. They're like, oh, by buying the rights to this, we're gonna make more money. It's like, yeah, you'll make more money, but you're not putting the right assets into making the best product you can make. The second biggest issue is this. Similar to what I just alluded to, Disney's become a lot more about quantity over quality. And where this goes a little bit different from what I just said, it's like, yeah, at the same time, they've gained control over so many different media outlets. But the other problem is now, despite all the control with all these media outlets, they're trying to just dish out so many different movies and shows left and right, all over the board. Because of that, as a result, the more and more you release of something, the quality of it's just not going to be very good. You know? It's like the MCU is a great example. You know, back in the day, we would maybe get a lot of MCU shows, or movies rather, a year. And most of them were really good. But that was back when Disney could pour almost all their assets, or all their attention, or at least a good chunk of it, into the MCU. Now they own more property, they own more content, and because the MCU was such a success, they think, okay, the world just wants more of it. It just wants more of it, so just make more of it. Make all these new shows, make all these new movies, and really it's been a big problem to why the MCU is kind of falling apart. You know, we haven't gotten a lot of great MCU movies post-Endgame, and you know, it's left us with a very empty feeling from the MCU. Even Star Wars, they made that, you know, trilogy, which was polarizing to say the least, and then they went to making all those shows, and, you know, a couple of them, you know, first two seasons of Mandalorian, Andor, some of them were really good, but most of them have been just pretty meh, you know? It's like, you just feel like they want to just keep dishing out shows and movies for the sake of it. They're not really pouring as much effort and attention to detail as they could to really make something great. And that's a big issue right there. And the third issue, and maybe the biggest one there is, oh boy, how do I say this without offending people, which granted is impossible this day and age, but Disney has become, it's become way more about the message, I guess is the way I could put it. That's the way everyone kind of describes it. It's more about, you know, pandering to people is really what it is now. It's no longer about making sure we just create a great movie or a great show or great content. It's about, well, hold on, we have to make this, but we also have to make sure, you know, all people are going to find a place for themselves in it. You know? It's like everything gets released now, like the animations, the MCU movies, the shows, everything that they create, everything has to cater to somebody because there are so many people on the internet, in real life, who will just absolutely just bring down a company, or in this case, bring down Disney because they don't feel there's enough of what they want in something. Like, oh, they don't have enough representation from this group of people, or there's not enough of this type of people in it, or they don't talk about this issue, or this sort of thing. And they get so mad at someone like Disney for not having it in the past, or having stuff that is now seen as bad in previous movies. They're just like, you have to cancel that, and you have to fix it. You have to make new stuff, make it better. You know, and so they go and do that. And the problem is, what Disney's not realizing is, like, these social justice warriors, these internet trolls, like, you know, these people who go on these long rants about why Disney's evil for not having the right representation. Well, it's funny, the second Disney puts what they're looking for in their movies, they still don't go see it. You know, they won't go see the movie, they won't watch the show, they won't do any of that. They just want an excuse to bitch. They just want an excuse to cry about something. And on the other hand, the actual movie fans like you and me, we're not going to the movies to have a message or an agenda thrown in our face. That's not what we're going to the movies for. We go to the movies to get away from that shit. We go to the movies to enjoy our life and just escape it. So the second we go to the movies and you're throwing that stuff back in our face, well, of course we're not going to go see it. You know, and in the age of the internet, nothing's a secret anymore. You know, you're going to hear all over the map. It's like, oh, this movie has that in it. This movie has this in it. And, you know, if you don't want to be bombarded with that message, you're not going to go see the movie. So as a result, the people who once supported you, you kind of turned your back on them and they're not going to see your movie. And the people you're trying to appeal to, we're never going to go see your movie. And therefore, that's why Disney has had a lot of box office failures recently. A lot of them. And as a result of that, Disney is now no longer seen as the pinnacle of movie making. At one point it was. And so I want to make this video to also explain what we can do to really improve the quality of movies across the board. Not really just Disney, but everywhere. So this is kind of where the part 2 of this video is going to come into place, or the second half I should say rather. Since 2020, since the COVID year, what was one thing that really blew up? It was streaming. You know, so many of us were out of jobs, out of school. We were told stay home, there's a pandemic. And so what did we do? We just stayed home and we just watched whatever was on streaming. That's why a lot of movies got bought by streaming services. That's why, you know, a lot more streaming services became a thing. That's when Disney Plus became a thing. That's, I believe, when Peacock became a thing. HBO Max became a thing. Like, so many more just happened. It became the new wave, you know? And it was great for the pandemic, and it's still a big, big, big thing now. But because of that, I think what's really feeling an effect as a result of that are movie theaters. Or rather, movies getting released in theaters. Because now, with the whole partnership that's going on with streaming services and everything like that, people don't have to wait as long to see a movie in theaters. Typically, within a few months or so, it's going to be on streaming. And as a result of that, a movie is never going to make as much on streaming as it would have in theaters. I think this is part of the issue right here. It's, yeah, Disney's not fully getting the message because as much as its lesser movies, as its bad movies aren't doing well at the box office, they also will look and see that any good movies they make, or really any good movies that get released in general, aren't really killing it at the box office either. Aren't making real big money. I think I was looking at it. I think, like, since 2021, I think only, like, 6 movies have made over $1 billion. Like, you know, people aren't going to the movies as much now because of what streaming has done. What came from the pandemic. And that's why I want to send this message for what we can do as fans of movies to really improve the quality of movie making. And it's real simple. We have to go to the movies. We have to go to the movies and we have to see these movies. You know, it's one thing to avoid going to the movies to see something that's bad. That's half the battle. The other half is going to support the movies that are great. That's why I emphatically try to tell people, go see this movie in theaters. Give it the money that it deserves, because the more great movies that get success, that make money, Hollywood's gonna listen. The money talks. It's a business at the end of the day. If they see a lot of really great movies making a lot of money, those great movies will be made. Like a great example is Top Gun Maverick last year, well, not last year, 2 years ago now, was a massive box office success. Why was that? I mean, Top Gun was a popular movie back in our parents' age, but it's not like it has the same brand or left the same legacy as something like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or any superhero movie did or anything like that. People just went to go see Top Gun Maverick because they heard it was amazing. Oppenheimer this year is a great example. I mean, Oppenheimer is a 3-hour long, R-rated biopic, and it made close to $1 billion. I think it probably will crack $1 billion. I know it's getting re-released, or finally getting released, I should say, in some countries. That's going to make a lot of money. And funny enough, when it came to Oppenheimer, that was my favorite movie of 2023. And of course, I told everyone I ever met, like, you should go see this movie. And you're seeing it nowadays. Like, a lot of people out there, even people who like movies, are just kind of like, nah, I'll wait till it's streaming. People don't want to go to movies anymore. And that's the problem. You can't really call yourself a movie lover and someone who supports great movies if you're not going to the movies. And that's why people question all the time. It's like, oh, why will I go see movies multiple times in theaters that I really, really love? Like I said, I saw Oppenheimer 3 times in theaters. I'm like, that's a cause I support. I not only support movie theaters, I support great movies. And I want great movies to be made. But that is the duty, that is the job I have as a fan. And that's a job that I think we all should have as fans. If we want great movies to happen, we have to let Hollywood know that we want them. If we go and support great movies, and they make a ton of money, and the movies that are being run by people with agendas, and the movies that aren't good, and the movies that are redundant, if they're bombing, and then the great movies are making a ton of money, that's where Hollywood is going to pour its resources into. Because the reality is this, Hollywood doesn't really care about what people say on IMDb or even Rotten Tomatoes. They don't care. All they care about is money. It's a business. I mean, fuck it. I mean, the Transformers movies, the Twilight movies, those fucking 50 Shades of Grey movies, are they bad? Yeah. But they had an audience. People went to go see them. They made money. So franchises were born because of them. It's like, if you want a great movie to happen, and you want bad movies to stop, movies with agendas to stop, then stop going to see those movies and support the ones that people you trust are telling you are great. I'm not even saying take my word for it. Take the word of people around you whose opinions you trust. Or other people on YouTube whose opinions you trust. People who have a stronger voice than I do. If they're telling you it's good and you have faith in their opinion, go see the movie. And if you really love the movie, encourage other people to see it. Go to your friends, be like, you should go see it. And they're like, I don't know. It's like, oh, but you should. I'll even go see it with you. We'll make a day out of it, Encourage people to do that. If you care so much about movies, which I do, you have to encourage people to go see these movies. And soon enough, if you do such a thing, eventually the quality in movie making is going to get a lot better. It's going to get a lot stronger. Because the great movies will be making money, and the movies that aren't doing so well, the movies that are just, being spewed out for the sake of being spewed out, and are just trying to shove messaging that you don't care about down your throat, those movies are going to tank, and those movies will stop being made. That's all it is. Your voice can be heard. But here's the thing. Action speaks louder. I can tell you this is the problem with Disney, but Disney's not going to listen to me just because I said something. Action's going to speak. If we go to the movies, if we go and see these great movies that are being made, if we give them the support, that's what we will experience. And the quality of movies is going to go way higher. I'll tell you this much right now. I would much rather it be very difficult to make a top 10 best list because of the quality of great movies then it'd be very easy to make a top 10 worst list because I saw a bunch of shit. I don't know if I worded that the right way, but I think you get the idea. So, yeah, it's a glaring issue that's been going on for a while. I decided to finally talk about it, just spew it with you guys. So, yep, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you took something away from my little TED Talk here. But, no, yeah, I will be getting back in the movies soon. I will be trying to hold myself more accountable to what I just said. I'm going to, hopefully as this year goes on, I will try to avoid seeing movies that I'm hearing have, poor movie making or bad messaging in it. And I'm really going to try to see more of the great stuff that gets made. So hopefully we can turn this wagon around. So that's all I got to say. Guys, thank you so much for watching my video. And as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.